Hello, everyone. We're so glad you're here tonight. I know evenings are busy, so thank you for taking the time for yourself and for your family. My name is Anais. I'm the Director of Training and Support for Unis Buddies. Tonight, we're diving into a topic that can feel overwhelming, but is also so important, understanding your child's benefits. Whether you're just starting to explore what's available, feeling confused by the terminology, or trying to plan ahead, our goal tonight is to help break it down into something clear and manageable. For those of you who are already involved with Best Buddies but aren't as familiar with Unis Buddies, we are the family support mentorship program within Best Buddies. While Best Buddies focuses on friendships, jobs, leadership development, and inclusive living for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, Unis Buddies is specifically designed for parents and caregivers. We thoughtfully match parents or caregivers whose children have recently received a diagnosis of an intellectual or developmental disability with trained volunteer mentors who are other parents who truly understand and are just a little bit further along on the journey. Whether it's navigating a new diagnosis, school transitions, future planning, or just needing someone who gets it, our mission is to make sure no parent feels like they're doing this alone through resources, connection, and support. Webinars like this one tonight are one more way that we extend that support. So a few quick housekeeping notes before we begin the webinar. We'll have a few polls throughout the presentation. So we'd love for you to participate in those polls. It helps make this interactive and gives us a chance to know where the group stands on certain topics. So when they pop up on the screen, just select an answer. We'll also be saving time at the end of the presentation for questions. So please, whenever a question pops in your mind, drop it in the chat and, as we go, and we'll get to them at the end. And finally, there's going to be a short survey at the end of the webinar. Your feedback really helps us shape future webinars and make sure we're covering what matters most to you. Now, we're incredibly grateful to have Kathy with us tonight. She brings so much expertise and knowledge to this topic, and I know you're going to walk away feeling more equipped and informed. So Kathy, thank you for being here, and we are excited to learn from you.
Thank you, Nisi. As Nisi said, I am Kathy DeRusso, and I'm very excited to be here today. I spent 35 years as a retained search executive in engineering and manufacturing staffing before discovering my passion for the Best Buddies mission when I was a volunteer in 2004. When the opportunity came to join the organization, I knew I wanted the final chapter of my career to focus less on making the big bucks and more on making a big difference. Once on the national jobs team, it didn't take long to see how many barriers people with intellectual and developmental disabilities face when they want to work and build independent lives. I also noticed that many capable, talented participants who had both the ability and the desire to work more were often working only 10 to 15 hours a week. It became clear to me that this wasn't about limitations. It was about fear, confusion, or lack of clear information around benefits. One silver lining of COVID was the opportunity to take advantage of distance training, which led me to become a certified community partner work incentive counselor, a CPWIC, in September of 2024. This training has helped me better understand how work and benefits fit together and how to help people who want to work more do so safely, confidently, and with the right support in place. When Best Buddies launched our family support pillar, I was excited to offer this important information. If you're welcoming a new baby with a diagnosis, you may be navigating medical information, big decisions, and emotions you didn't expect. I'm sure it can feel overwhelming. The fact that you're here tells me you're already seeking knowledge and support, and that matters. I want you to hear this clearly. At Best Buddies, we believe the future is bright, and work can be a part of that future. With the right information and advocacy, individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities can build meaningful, fulfilling lives and careers that reflect their strengths. Now, while my certification focuses on adults with disabilities, One thing is clear: understanding your child's rights early and knowing that opportunities exist can help ease that question many parents carry: what will happen to my child when I'm gone? So today I hope to help you feel prepared and supported as you begin imagining what a meaningful, independent future could look like for your child. I don't expect you to learn everything from our short time together. It's taken me several years to obtain the knowledge that I have, but what matters when it comes to disability benefits is this: apply early, keep good records, and learn about benefits before major transitions, such as turning 18 and working. Benefits should reduce fear, not create it. Please think about benefits like guardrails. They're not limits. They exist to protect your child's health care, support, and future options. They do not define who they can become. So why early? And what are we applying for? I'm talking about Social Security benefits, the specific area of my certification. I would encourage you to apply for supports early, even if you're unsure that you will need them. Some supports and services take time to access, and applying early can prevent stress later. Be proactive versus being forced to be reactive later. There are two main types of disability benefits available through Social Security: SSI and SSDI. And which one a person receives depends on work history and family circumstances. SSI is Supplemental Security Income. It is most common for children. It is needs-based, meaning family income and assets matter. The child must meet Social Security's disability criteria, and the parent's income and assets count until age 18. SSI can provide monthly cash benefits. The current federal benefit rate for this year is $994 a month, and in most states, Medicaid is automatic. Medicaid is often the bigger benefit offered through SSI. For some families, it is much more valuable than the cash benefit because Medicaid can cover therapies such as occupational, physical, speech, as well as personal care services, behavioral supports, necessary medical equipment, along with waiver services and respite. Losing Medicare unintentionally can be devastating, an important reason why planning matters. SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, usually comes later in life and is based on work history. Children typically qualify for SSDI as adults, not minors, and SSDI can come from their own work record or a parent's work record should that parent be retired, disabled, or deceased. If an SSDI payment is low, a person may also qualify for SSI to supplement it. After receiving SSDI for 24 months, individuals automatically qualify for Medicare. Some people qualify for both Medicare and Medicaid, which can help cover additional medical costs. Now, most children start on SSI, but future eligibility can change as they age. You heard me mention income and assets. They most certainly matter, but there are ways to plan. SSI has strict financial rules where the parent's income can reduce or even eliminate SSI. And children generally cannot have more than $2,000 in countable resources. When a child is born with or later diagnosed with a disability, families are often focused on therapy, school, and day-to-day care. Financial planning can feel overwhelming, but there is a simple tool designed specifically for this situation: an ABLE account. Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, the ABLE Act, became law in December of 2014. And the law aimed to ease financial strains faced by individuals with disabilities by making tax-free savings accounts available to cover qualified disability expenses. An ABLE account is a tax-advantaged saving and investment account that empowers individuals with disabilities to save. For those that receive disability benefits, ABLE allows these individuals to save over that $2,000 asset limit without impacting these benefits. The money can be used for almost anything that supports their life, health, or independence. Things like housing, groceries, transportation, education, job training, assistive technologies, medical expenses, to name a few. Think of it as a flexible tool that helps your child build financial stability and work toward greater independence without putting their benefits at risk. Another way to set aside money for your child with a disability without putting their SSI or Medicaid at risk is a special needs trust, an SNT. If a child receives money directly through a gift, an inheritance, a lawsuit, it could accidentally make them ineligible for those essential benefits you may rely on. A special needs trust solves that problem. It holds the money separately, and a trustee manages it to pay for things that improve your child's quality of life. Again, things like education, therapy, transportation, or recreation, while protecting their essential benefits and future independence. The key is that the trust supplements government benefits, it doesn't replace them. In simple terms, a special needs trust is a way to protect benefits, provide extras that enhance quality of life, and a way to plan for your child's future, especially for when you are no longer here to provide that support. Think of a special needs trust as the long-term safety net for larger amounts of money like an inheritance. It's managed by a trustee and it protects SSI and Medicaid. An ABLE account is more like a flexible savings account that the individual can use for everyday disability-related expenses, including housing and work-related costs. Many families use both together. Many parents will fund a special needs trust with a life insurance policy and name a sibling as trustee. The key is making the trust the beneficiary, not the child directly, so that their benefits stay protected. The bigger question isn't whether it's possible, it's whether the sibling is the right person for that responsibility. So turning 18 is a big deal for a variety of reasons. When your child turns 18, they legally become an adult. That means decision-making rights transfer to them, and public benefits are based on their income, not yours. It's also when adult services begin. Now, while it can feel overwhelming, it's an important milestone that opens doors to employment, independence, and long-term planning. Turning 18 is not just about paperwork, it's about possibility. At 18, Social Security no longer looks at your income if your child applies for SSI. They look at their income and their resources. And that change alone opens doors for many young adults with disabilities to qualify for SSI and Medicaid. And Medicaid is often the gateway to adult services, including employment. Here's where benefits planning becomes powerful. Many families worry, if my child works, will they lose everything? That fear is incredibly common and understandable. But the truth is, Social Security was designed with work incentives, safety nets in the form of rules that allow young adults with disabilities to work part-time, test higher earnings, keep their Medicaid, and often keep some of their SSI cash benefits while working. The goal is progress, not punishment. Employment isn't just about a paycheck. It's about confidence, community, skills development, and building a future that includes choice. When benefits planning is done correctly with accurate information and personalized counseling, families can make informed decisions versus fear-based decisions. Turning 18 is when you should shift from asking, how do we protect everything, and start asking, how do we build something? Work and benefits are not enemies. When coordinated thoughtfully, they are tools of greater independence. When we combine early planning, benefits counseling, and meaningful employment, we replace fear with strategy and we create a path toward greater independence through work. When a young person with intellectual and developmental disabilities turns 18, it's not just a birthday. Again, it's a legal shift into adulthood. When they become a legal adult at 18 in most states, parents no longer automatically have the right to access medical records, make medical or educational decisions, or manage finances. If support is still needed, this is when families may consider things such as guardianship, healthcare proxies, power of attorney, and any need for supported decision-making. Under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the IDEA Act, educational decision-making rights transfer from the parent to the student. Again, in most states, this happens at 18. The student now signs the IEP. And, unless the legal arrangements are in place, this can sometimes surprise families who are used to leading the IEP meetings. So I want you to understand that one of the biggest fears families have is, if my child works, will they lose their benefits? It's a real and understandable concern. It's also one of the biggest myths out there, one that has unfortunately been perpetuated for some time now. Please listen carefully as I do my best to try to stop this myth from being passed down. Work does not automatically mean loss of benefits. Social Security created work incentives, those safety nets I spoke of, to encourage employment, not to punish it. If your child receives SSI, the benefit gradually adjusts as their earnings increase. It does not stop the moment they work. And in many cases, Medicaid can continue even if the cash benefit is reduced to zero. I'm going to show you a very simple math calculation. The work incentive for SSI comes in the form of a calculation. SSI calculates earned income by looking at the individual's gross pay. So in this example, let's just say that the individual with disabilities is earning $1,000 a month. $20 is an automatic general exclusion that comes off the top, followed by an automatic $65 earned income exclusion. This leaves $915. That amount is then divided in half, leaving $457.50 as what SSI considers countable income. They then subtract that from the $994 federal benefit rate, the most a person can get, to determine the next month's SSI payment. In this case, $536.50 is the SSI check plus the $1,000 the person is earning while working. Let's say that that individual is making progress, and now they're earning $2,000 a month. $20 automatic exclusion, $65 earned income exclusion. That leaves $1,915. That amount is then divided in half, leaving $957.50 as the countable income, which is then subtracted from the $994 federal benefit rate to determine the next month's SSI payment. In this case, the check would drop to $36.50 a month, added to the $2,000 the person is earning, for $2,036.50 a month. So easy math demonstrates that working and earnings are always going to bring you more money. Which would you rather have? $994 to sit at home and do nothing, or a place in the community where you serve a purpose, where you're part of a team, where you are a contributing member of society, and you're earning an income that will allow you to continue on your journey to financial independence? I'm a parent. Isn't that what we all want for our children? If your child receives SSDI, there's a work incentive called trial work period that allows them to test their ability to work for 9 months. And it's not necessarily consecutive, it's within a 60-month rolling period of time. It is truly a safety net to test capacity. Another work incentive is the extended period of eligibility. It's a 36-month safety window that follows the trial work period. And then there's a work incentive safety net if the job doesn't work out. It's called expedited reinstatement of benefits. Let's just say that the individual's SSDI cash benefits stop due to work, and the person later cannot continue to work because of their disability. They simply request reinstatement of their benefits, and if that happens within 5 years, there's no brand new application, and they may receive up to 6 months of provisional payments while Social Security is reviewing their case. Now, when I talk about work and benefits, I am usually referring to cash benefits received. But for many parents and participants, maintaining health care is usually the bigger fear, and I understand that completely. Medicaid and Medicare are lifelines for many families. The good news is that health care protection was also built into the system. For SSI recipients, Medicare usually continues automatically. Some states you have to apply for it, even if their SSI cash benefits are reduced to zero based on their earnings, if they still meet the disability rules and they stay under the state income limits. For those receiving SSDI, Medicare continues for at least 93 months after the trial work period ends. That's over 7 years of continued coverage while the individual is building stability in their career. That's far from a cliff. That's a runway. Losing health care overnight is extremely rare when earnings are reported properly. And yes, it is most important to remember, if you work, you report your wages to Social Security monthly. And the goal is never to take something away. The goal is to expand opportunity. The Ticket to Work and Self-Sufficiency Act of 1999 marked a significant shift toward promoting employment and financial independence for individuals receiving disability benefits. This act was championed by leaders who believed that people with disabilities deserve opportunity, not limits. One of those leaders was our founder's uncle, the late Senator Ted Kennedy from the great state of Massachusetts, where I live. He believed work is dignity, work is inclusion, and work is independence. And that spirit still lives on at Best Buddies. The Ticket to Work program allows a longer transition period between first beginning to work all the way up to full-time employment and greater levels of financial independence through work. And it involves working with an employment network. Not all supported employment agencies are employment networks, but Best Buddies is. And this program allows us to offer long-term follow-along support to individuals who wish to reach greater levels of independence through work and earnings. And remember, what matters when it comes to disability benefits, apply early, keep good records, and learn about benefits before major transitions. Remember to think about benefits like guardrails, not limits. They exist to protect your child's health care, support, and future options. They do not define who they can become. I'll say it again. The future for your child is bright. With the right information, the right support, and a community that believes in them, it can be expansive. And you don't have to navigate it alone. That's why Best Buddies is here. We're here to help.
Thank you, Kathy. So we have a few questions that came in. We have about 20 minutes for Q&A. So I'm going to get to the ones that came in while you were presenting. And then if people have any questions that have come up since the presentation, if you want to drop those right now in the chat, we'll get to them. Are parents' income a factor for SSDI even at age 18?
No, nope.
What's the catch with the ABLE accounts?
There really isn't a catch. I mean, ABLE is definitely for people receiving SSI, okay? Because SSI is the only one that has a resource limit. I mean, if there's a catch at all, there's an overall amount. It can't go over $100,000 ever. Okay. So, like, if you have a child that's just an unbelievable saver, you know, that's probably the only catch that I know of. And I do, you know, I kind of have the disclaimer that I know about ABLE and I know about special needs, but financial planning is not my forte. But you should get help when you're in that area with somebody, especially if you have large sums of money or maybe grandma's going to leave you an inheritance.
Okay, somebody said my son is turning 20 soon. Is today's webinar for that stage or just earlier?
It's for everyone. I mean, I guess my question to you would be, have you applied for Social Security yet? I think the reason why I started wanting to know more about the rules is because I work with adults in our program, and sometimes there'd be a parent reaching out to us trying to get their child Social Security. And again, because I didn't come up through this industry, I was like, why are they waiting? It's harder later in life. You may have to hire a lawyer. So the earlier, the better.
Perfect. And then these were both questions that came up during the work incentive slide with the two comparisons.
Mhm.
Why is half of 915 automatic? And so you won't get kicked off if you don't make more than 2,000.
Well, 2000 was a good example to show you that that leaves 3650, okay? But if we went up to 2500 and used that same calculation, the SSI payment may drop down to zero, okay? That means the cash payment stops, but the person's still eligible for Medicaid and healthcare and everything else. I mean, I often wanted to do a skit, and I think I've shared this with you before, Nisi, to have one of our job participants, have like a check in their hand and have like an eagle on it, like, here I go to the bank to deposit this measly little federal benefits check I have, and then have them go off screen and then put something that says 6 months later after Best Buddies help them find a job, and then have them walk by with that big Mega Millions huge check. This is the money I made on my own. It's not just about the money. It is about pride and choice and growth. I have a cousin who experiences life with IDD. My aunt did pass away, and her greatest concern was what happens to Michael. Well, Michael's fine. We are a good family. We took care of him and he works. He has a great job. He's also in his 60s, I think, like me. But again, as long as you plan, there is a bright future.
And then someone asked, do they have to file taxes?
Yes. Here's a good
Okay.
example. When my husband retired, I've done the taxes. We've been together 35 something years. When he retired that year, went to do the taxes. I said, "I need your tax forms or whatever." And he gave me a Social Security thing. And I said, "Well, where's what you had taken out?" Oh, the guys down the club told me I didn't have to have anything taken out. Needless to say, I had to pay taxes that year. And I said to him, "Listen, rule of thumb, if the government gives you anything, they're going to want something from it. Okay. And usually when they give you cash, they're going to want to see that. Earned income is the one that's most important. Later in life, when they're reporting their income, that's what's important.
When should paperwork for SSI be completed for a kid about to turn 18?
Oh, for a kid about to turn 18, I would say right now. I mean, I actually have like a little timeline because I was thinking people would ask that. Birth to age 3, put SSI and Medicaid on the radar. 3 to 5, review and maybe recertify. You might have to be looking at schools now and IEPs and things like that. 16 to 13, you're basically maintaining the benefits and planning ahead. 14 to 17, that's when transition planning begins. Okay. But 18 is a major milestone. And if you haven't yet, do it now.
Okay. Why is an ABLE account more beneficial than a standard checking savings account if the balance is less than 2,000? Doesn't guardianship encompass POA and healthcare proxies?
Not necessarily on the second one. The first one, you could have that, but what if something happened unexpectedly and grandma left an inheritance? Or he got a big bonus at work or something and it went into the bank and all of a sudden Medicaid's gone. Like what happened? Okay, so yes, you could have less than $2,000 in a savings account, but I'm talking about growth. I'm talking about savings. You cannot have more than $2,000 in a savings account. And I don't know about you, but I don't consider $2,000 a very big nest egg. if I'm planning for my future. Like, do I have more than that in my savings account? I hope so. A little bit more.
Somebody asked if my child lives with me and works, how are benefits calculated?
All right, so that's a very good question. I told you the amount is $9.94. Now, when your adult child starts to work, I would say it's probably a great example of teaching them about supporting themselves, okay? So at that point, you would want to report to Social Security that your child is paying their own room and board, and they're going to get that full $9.94. But if they're not, and Social Security thinks they're living under your roof, you're making meals, you're letting them, have the heat and all the stuff that goes along with it, they're considered that in-kind maintenance. And so they take, it's kind of like a third off of the Social Security amount. But again, I always tell our adult participants, if they're currently only getting that, I'll say to the parent, well, why are they only getting that? Well, we do this and that, and, he eats here the whole bit. Why don't you have him give you $400 a month so he can start getting comfortable with paying rent and food and everything else? And then they start to get it. Okay, he's my adult child, and like any adult child, he should be contributing. And if he's contributing to the house toward food and all that other stuff, his SSI check goes up. And some states supplement it even more. There's sometimes a little extra.
How do we access other benefits such as Medicaid and SNAP if my child is already on SSDI?
Okay, so that person is talking about concurrent benefits, okay? And my best suggestion is call your state Medicaid office, because when I took this certification, I'm still taking a course. I was taking a course today. I take as many courses as I can that they offer, because once you know one Medicaid program in one state, you know one Medicaid program in one state. Let's just say that I start consulting a lot of people within our company. I'm going to ask them first what their questions are. And if they're Medicaid related, before that meeting, I'm going to have to go contact that state, talk to a lot of people. So I would reach out to your state Medicaid office to see how you qualify for all of that. Because every state has like a different department. Oh, well, SNAP is run by, this group, or HUD in our state is run by DDS. So again, I think the best way, and you can Google your state's Medicaid program, and there's usually quite a bit of information on that page. They're trying to avoid everybody coming into the office. So they do put a lot on their website.
If your child is in post-graduation program, do benefits start when post-grad ends?
That's kind of a touchy one. I've been talking with Heidi Kalinowski, who leads our transitions program. And again, some states will have services for you up to 18. And then if you want to graduate, they want to see like a graduation, okay? If you stay in life skills, I believe that things will continue until 22. Again, every state is different. But again, I think it's important to look at your state. Every state has a different date when transitions start. That's why I said some states consider it 18. There are other things where some states consider it 19. So a little nuanced.
And I feel like that might play into this next question. I was told that my son who is 18 can get SNAP, but my income will be part of it. However, when he turns 21, he can apply and my income will not matter. Is this accurate?
It doesn't sound accurate to me, but again, I would say to reach out to your state Medicaid office, because if they're eligible for SSI and are receiving it and are going to also get SNAP, then that was all determined based on their income. I don't know. There could be a state that says, okay, there are some states that are a little funky. I'm not going to say which ones, but there are some states that when Best Buddies announces, oh, we're opening jobs in this state, I'm going to go, oh, no. There are some states that are more challenging than others.
How do I get my child 23 a SSI benefit? She was born with a disability. I've told for years she should get, but I work, so maybe that's why. I have an appointment tomorrow. Need help.
Yeah, I mean, you have to apply. Nothing is automatic. Okay, you have to apply for SSI. And how old did she say the child was?
23.
So your income shouldn't affect her ability to get SSI now. And that's the thing I want people to understand. If your child, is still a young child, an infant or a baby or a toddler or whatever, They're not going to qualify for SSDI yet, okay? But they may not qualify for SSI because of your income, but when they turn 18, they should apply again for SSI because now it's their income and their resources. I have not heard about SNAP to 22, but that is a state question.
How does Best Buddies help with employment? This is good news, but
Woo-hoo!
I'm
Woo-hoo!
unaware of this.
Well, I volunteered in 2004 and I was with the company for a long, long time until I decided, wait a minute, what? They have jobs? And when I started in 2016, we had our jobs program in 11 states, 15 locations. Now we have 22 states with jobs, 39 locations. We have approximately 80 field staff that are out there helping adults with disabilities find sustainable employment. And depending on what state you're in, the first thing you do is you go to our website and you apply to be part of our jobs program. I get that email, I send it to the state contact person, and then, they reach out and take it from there. But we have over, I want to say 1,080 individuals working across this country, and we have our jobs program in 9 countries outside of the US as well.
Incredible. When a person is working, is there a period when benefits are stopped?
Cash benefits, yes. Okay. And when I clarified that at the end, when I say benefits, I'm usually talking about cash benefits. And the reason for that is on the ticket to work side, as an employment network, we also receive revenue once someone is successful at getting to a greater level. So that example I used, I would say if you get the PowerPoint later, get that slide and plug in $2,500. There will be a point where you will see that the cash check drops to zero. So they're no longer getting that cash check. But I want you to think about SSI and SSDI as faucets. Okay. SSDI is a faucet on full flow. Okay. Now, when a person works their way up and over what's called substantial gainful activity, it's the number SSA looks at. This year it's $1,690. A person on SSDI can do that for 3 months. The fourth month, their cash benefits, the faucet shuts off. It's off. Okay. The next month, they earn under that, psh, faucet goes back on. Okay. So SSDI can go up and down, up and down, up and down. Once they go over for a period of time, and we had somebody that was working for like 5 years. COVID happened. She lost her job. I had to help the family, go back and reapply. SSI is kind of like my Pepe, my grandfather. When we used to go to the garden, he would leave the faucet drip, 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 drip for the little birds. Okay. And so he had to set it just right. And so SSDI will get to a drip where that person's only getting $36.50 a month. And maybe they make a little bit more. They're going to get $12.75 the next month, but it will eventually go to zero. Okay. Again, the same thing, depending on their earnings, it can come back. All right. But, for us, the goal is to get them off of that cash benefit because they're going to make more money on their own and they're going to be out in the community having a place to belong. Yes, medical benefits are important, but remember, in almost every state, they reach that number, the faucet's off, Medicaid continues. If they're on SSDI and the faucet's off, Medicare continues for 93 months. Now, yeah, there could be some conundrum there. What if you have a person with disabilities that's working 2 part-time jobs and they're not getting health insurance from either company because they're part-time? When their Medicare ends after 93 months, they can buy in. They can just opt to pay the premium and keep their Medicare. But in most cases, either the employer they're working for has a better plan or they can find a better plan on their own. Again, Medicare, they do not pull the rug out from under anyone. And as I mentioned, that extended period of eligibility, if you go past 5 years, the only difference is you do have to march back into Social Security and fill out everything again. But in most cases, the individuals we're working with, they receive their diagnosis at birth or a very early age. There's never going to be that, oh no, are they still going to consider me disabled because you've gone out into the community and proved your worth? Yes, you are still a person with a disability. The other thing I didn't say, that Ticket to Work program, if they sign up for that with us and say, I want to make more money, they are protected from those continuing disability reviews. So once they're working with us and in the ticket program, they don't have to worry about proving to anybody that they still have a disability.
This is a longer question. My son started to work a month ago. I went to the Social Security office to show them the first check, and the next payment was adjusted. Days later, I received a letter from Social Security office saying that the employer is reporting his wages, so no need to report myself. And next month, payment will change again. My question is, should I leave it as is and rely on the employer reporting to Social Security?
I would say yes, if you received a letter stating that they are part of the PI program, the Payroll Information Exchange, okay? That is something fairly new. Personally, I think it's wonderful because it stops you from having to go to Social Security and report their wages. Make sure, though, clarify with Social Security, is my son in the PI program, the Payroll Information Exchange? Because the good news about that, let's say that the company messes up and something goes wrong and his wages don't get reported and you get an overpayment or you get penalized. If you're in PI, they don't make you pay that back.
Okay, this is another kind of long question. My son is total assist. He just turned 18 in August. I have guardianship. I applied last February for SSI and never heard back from them before he turned 18. He had not received SSI since he was an infant. He was insured through my employer's insurance all his life until early 2025. Do I need to restart the SSI application process?
So, did she say that she didn't receive SSI from birth?
I applied last February. He had not received SSI since he was an infant, is what she said.
Now, that could have been because of their income. Now that he's older, they're going to look at his income. So I would say yes, because it will offer him more adult services if he qualifies. And he should qualify as a person with disabilities. I mean, the sad truth is sometimes you have to fight for it. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Yes, there are lawyers that can help you with stuff like this, but I'm hoping that Best Buddies itself becomes a much greater resource for parents. I mean, I'm excited to share this information. I got my certification in 2024. I love questions because every question, if I don't have the answer, it makes me go look it up. I want to know everything. So, any questions that come later, Nisi, I will help answer those that I can.
How hard is the process for applying for SSI and SSDI if never applied due to parent income?
I don't think the process is any harder. It's just new. I would support the individual. I would hope that at age 18, they're not being, set free or whatever. I hope most parents try to remain guardians for a while to kind of help them through the early adult years. But I don't think it should be any harder. It's similar paperwork, but it's going to be based on his income, his resources. So there might not be a lot to put down.
Here's a tax question. If a young adult works 24 hours a week, earns income, if they file a tax return, can I still claim them as a dependent on my return?
How old are they? Did it say?
They didn't say. But if the person who asked that wants to drop the age now, I'm looking at the most recent ones that are coming in.
And again, some states that will change. Some states it's kind of like when my daughter turned 26, I couldn't have her on my insurance policy anymore because she was considered I don't know, a full adult or something. Now, people with disabilities, again, I would look at the state rules. But again, as I said, it has to do with your income and their income. I don't know if it's any harder.
Okay.
I don't know if that was an answer.
They haven't gotten back to me with the age question either.
Yeah.
Is there a point when we should have SSI or SSDI reviewed if a child is not receiving the 994?
Yeah, I would. I would. Different ages will go through like a redetermination. You may get something from SSI, but you don't qualify for the federal benefit total rate. But again, squeaky wheel, question it. The federal benefit rate changes every year. It doesn't change by much, believe me. I was like super excited thinking it's going to go over $1,000. It did not, missed it by $6. But that will change every year. And so, that's why I think it's kind of important when your child's getting close to 18 to start keeping an eye on numbers like that and know what they are.
My husband was receiving Social Security retirement benefits when we adopted our special needs daughter. She is receiving benefits monthly because he is retired. When she turns 18 and is still in school, and she should be receiving SSDI, is the amount the same?
That's a good question. I want to say yes, the amount is the same because the amount is based on what he earned. Okay. It isn't based on her. It's based on what he put into FICA, or I think that's what it is when we pay into it. And I used to think that it was like, he retired and he's getting half of his and she's getting half of it. No, he's still getting his retirement money, and that's a child disability benefit. And I do not believe that the amount will change because it's based on what he put into that.
And this is the last question I'm going to get to, and then we'll wrap up. What kind of job skills are needed for Best Buddies employment?
It depends on what their interests are. And I would strongly suggest that you go to bestbuddies.org/jobs, and there's a tab where you can click on to see all our participating employers. And our list starts with agriculture all the way to warehousing, legal, educational, retail, food service, insurance, oil, manufacturing. Our participants work everywhere. We have a participant that's working with the NFL in New York City. He's a statistician. Took him 2 years, look for a job, look for a job, look for a job, couldn't find a job. Came to Best Buddies and they basically said, well, you moved to New York because he was so bright with math. He's been there 5 years now. Many of our participants are working at Jersey Mike's, which is food service. They're a wonderful organization. They have helped Best Buddies tremendously financially, and they want to have a participant working at every store. And there are lots and lots of retail jobs and lots of food service, but really, sky's the limit. And I get super excited when somebody makes a placement and I look at the list and I go, that's a new category. We had somebody place somebody that was at one of those places, I can't think of what you call it, but they were like regrowing the oysters or something in the ocean. And I'm like, that's aquaculture. Like, that's a new category. My sister is a scientist. She said that's part of agriculture. And I said, no, it's a new category.
How much earnings is considered substantial gainful employment?
Every year that figure changes, okay? And there are two numbers, and one is for SSDI and the other one's for both, okay? When a person on SSDI reaches $1,210, that's the trial work level, okay? The first time they do that counts that 9-month clock, okay? Once they've done that 9 times, then they look to see, are they earning over substantial gainful activity? And that amount is $1,690 a month. And again, that amount changes every year. Last year it was 1640. Okay. So hopefully next year it'll be over 17,000. But that's the number you keep an eye on. Now, understand that, for example, let's just say your child is earning $2,000, but they use a special van for transportation to get to work because they use a wheelchair to get around. And maybe that van costs them $300 a month. You can let Social Security know about that cost and they consider it an injury-related work expense. An IRWE is what they call it. And they subtract that from countable earning. Remember when I showed you the calculation or whatever? That's an additional subtraction that brings down the number they count. Maybe they take medication and it's because they have seizures. And if they don't take the medication, they can't work. You go to Social Security and apply for that expense to be considered an IRWE. So there are lots and lots of ways that you bring the actual number down. So one of the things I learned when I first started the training for certification was SGA is a decision. It's not just a number. Okay.
Okay. Somebody did clarify. Okay, the difference between survival benefits and SSDI. So somebody says survival benefits is received on behalf of a deceased parent. So Social Security survivor benefits provide monthly payments to spouses age 60 or older, or any age with young children. So
Yeah, I
that's
don't
what.
know that that applies specifically to people with IDD because if the parent is deceased, the child automatically gets their SSDI. That
Okay.
is the survival benefit.
Okay.
I think that may be related to retirees and things like that. Like my mother, gets a survival benefit from my father's Social Security.
My son is receiving SSDI now because it started as survival benefits from the passing of a parent. Um, so maybe
They
that
may
was.
refer to it as that, you know, every state is different. Some states call it a DAC, like a disabled adult child. Some states call it like a CDB, a child disability benefit. It could be because of that.
All right, I am going to say thank you so much, Kathy. This was incredible. And we had, and thank all of you for taking the time to be with Kathy and I tonight. If you are interested in learning more about Unis Buddies or signing up to be a mentor, or if you'd like to be paired with a mentor, we'd love to connect with you. Thank you again for being here tonight. We appreciate you spending your time with us, and I hope to see you at a future Unis Buddies event or webinar.